On behalf of the Board of Directors, Bob Schmitt, you are hereby inducted into the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Schmitt.
Thank you. Brought my hanky in case I get a little weepy. I figured if Mac could do it, I could do it too. First of all, I'm going to tell you a reason why maybe I shouldn't be up here, and then I'll give you a couple reasons why I am. It's ironic and, in a certain sense, hypocritical that I stand before you today because I have been chosen to receive an individual honor for participation in sports when the only sports I ever participated in were team sports. In fact, a very good friend of mine told me recently that the only reason the Jock Shop ever won any national championships was because we had the best players. Then he went on to say the only reason the Frewsburg Bears won 3 state championships was because they had the best players. Well, he was right. We did. And if that weren't the case, I probably wouldn't be up here tonight. When I coached, there was no team captain, there was no team MVP, there was no coach's award, there was no most improved player award. I felt that for every award you gave someone, you were slighting his teammates, who also gave everything they had, and that wasn't fair. And if you gave everyone an award, which so often happens nowadays, it was just a slight. So, I'd have to say, everything I say here tonight regarding this individual honor bestowed on me, I have to say first thing, it is shared with all those people who collectively made my career in sports what it was. Okay, 2 reasons why I am up here. Number 1, Jock Shop softball. I had the privilege of not only playing with some of the best athletes in Chautauqua County, but also the most dedicated. After the last game of each season, everybody would disappear, but we would reunite the following May for a new season. There were usually only 12 of us, 10 batters, and 2 alternating pitchers, but I could always count on all of them to show up, ready to go, to travel to a tournament almost every other weekend. Jim Brooks would pull up in his 18-wheeler, and Terry Woodfield in his bread truck, and we were ready to go. I might get some arguments from some people, but I feel that that was the best softball team ever assembled in Chautauqua County. And I would be remiss if I didn't also recognize all the wives and children who gave up their weekends to travel along with us and cheer us on in all our successes. I would also be remiss if I didn't suggest to the Board of Directors that they hold a special spot in the Hall of Fame for the national championship teams of 1983 and 1984. I have pictures, I have t-shirts, I have photos, I have everything you need. Reason number 2, Frewsburg, New York grows great baseball players, always did, and they still do, and I had more than my share. We played the game like businessmen. We were never seen with our shirts hanging out or our hats on backwards. Everyone's socks were worn at the same length. Everyone was clean shaven. Dry shaving on the bus happened more than once. All our shoes were dyed black because we weren't being paid by any shoe manufacturing company to wear them. We looked and played as one. Joe mentioned something about innovative things that we did, cross-court grounder kill, and no rules basketball were part of our preseason regimen. Before games, in the 13 seasons, we had 1 detention and no academic ineligibilities. Frewsburg had a rule that if you were sick but came to school by 11 o'clock in the morning, you could play that day, but not us. If you weren't there for the homeroom bell at 7:30, there was no possible way you would feel good enough to be able to play that afternoon at 4:30. Nobody was as dedicated as the players that I had at Frewsburg High. We won a lot of games in 13 years, but we won several sportsmanship awards too, and I am equally as proud of those. I wish I had time to tell you all the dramatic things that happened during those 13 years. Things like grand slams in a state championship and a no-hitter in a state championship are things that can never be forgotten. In closing, I can sum things up by comparing my days on the diamond with all the days of my life. Sometimes the weather was sunny, sometimes it rained. Sometimes I got the good hops. Sometimes a pebble or a cleat mark made it impossible for me to make a play. Sometimes I made errors. Sometimes I made great plays. Sometimes I swung at pitches that were a little out of the strike zone and missed. But other times I hit gopher balls over the fence. I have some people to thank. First of all, Scott Kinberg, who nominated me. Secondly, Joe DeBayo, who introduced me. I'd also like to thank Denny Lundberg, who gave me free rein to run the Jock Shop team. There was never anything that I asked Denny for that he didn't provide for us. I'd like to thank Paul Grakowski, who was superintendent at Frewsburg and who hired me. And I would also like to thank all those who played with me, for me, and against me. It has been fantastic. I'd like to recognize my son Corey, who flew up from Florida here tonight, and my daughter Andrea, who drove in from Ohio Northern University, and my wife Jody, who has seen me play for UCH and still believes me when I tell her that I used to be good. I wish my mom was here tonight, and I hope she's at home sitting next to my dad, listening to this. And finally, I'd like to thank the United Church Homes Silver Bullets, my current team, who has lifted me to the epitome of camaraderie. And after 40 years on a diamond, were able to convince me that winning isn't really everything. And I hope you guys didn't spend all your strikeout money to come here tonight. One other thing on a somber note. Back in ancient times, I played softball for the CSHOF. And those of you who were around then remember the huge rivalry we had with Stravato's Grill and how there would be 1,000 people up at Bergman Park when we played. Well, they had this pitcher. His name was Jim Adamczak, also known as the King. We hated him. A lot of times he made us sick at the plate. Over the years, through my wife, I became good friends with Jim's daughter Lori and her husband Tom Lassen. We were invited to a birthday party for their daughter Jessica, and who do I see sitting on the back porch? The hated King. Well, I sucked it up and sat down next to him, and we had a fantastic time reminiscing about old times for over an hour and separated as friends. It's funny how times change. Time changes things. Well, why am I telling you this? Jim Adamczak is currently in Gowanda under hospice care, and his prognosis is very bleak. So tonight, when you go home and say your prayers, Throw in a high, hard one for Jim. He could use it, and so could his family. Thank you very much, and as Jim Rome says, I'm out.
Congratulations. Well done, Bobby. Excellent speech. Thanks.